Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
We're going back to a society where we're not going to be wearing masks quite as much, which is great news.
Oh, I'm
People
so
are getting
excited.
vaccinated. The thing is, we're going on dates, we're taking our masks off. What's
We're going
that?
out for dinner.
What's on your skin? Ton of maskne.
And we're starting to take our masks off, and we see a lot of lines that we don't like and we want to get rid of. So,
Speak for yourself.
well, that's true. You don't have any lines. And I think it's time for Amy Wechsler to do her job.
Well, Dr. Amy Wechsler is a New York City dermatologist. She's great. And she has a podcast with her daughter, Zoe. They talk generational differences, but they're more focused on psychology and dermatology, college, divorce, pretty much any topic that they've gone through in their lives.
And we're talking about dating, so it's a little different.
Yes, but it was a great collaboration. We have them on in this episode. I think you're all going to really like it. Welcome to Excuse My Grandma, ladies.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having us. It's our first time being guests on another podcast together.
Oh my gosh, I'm taking your podcast guest virginity. This is so exciting.
You are. I didn't think you were going to say that.
Oh, yeah, we're a little bit unfiltered here, so I guess that's a good fair warning. So Amy and
Awesome.
Zoe, can you introduce yourselves to our listeners?
Sure, you go first, though. Okay. So the day we're recording this, I just presented my senior thesis. So when you hear this, I might be a Barnard graduate, which is really exciting.
Congrats.
Very exciting.
Thank you. So Mom and I have a podcast, Am I Embarrassing You?, which kind of chronicles our lives together. We talk about everything. As Kim said, Mom's also a psychiatrist, so we really talk about every issue and we don't hold back.
So I'm a dermatologist and a psychiatrist, which is unique. There are only a few of us in the country because it takes so long to train in both specialties. I did emergency medicine for my internship, adult psychiatry, then a fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry. Then I worked for a couple of years and went back and did dermatology.
And like in between that, you had 2 kids.
Yeah.
Wow, goals.
Your plate was full. That's for sure. You did a lot.
I did.
Fabulous.
Yeah, thanks.
So on the podcast, Zoe, have you been successfully embarrassed yet? Or do you feel like most topics you've gotten through smoothly?
I think most of them I get through. I mean, you pushed it a little bit, but I don't really care. I'm happy to talk about everything. You just you say funny stuff, and I regret teaching her things like how to say AF.
Oh, Grandma, do you know what that means?
No.
Guess.
After.
No.
No. I don't know.
It's like as fuck. So it's
I knew that.
well, you knew the F part, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll be like, it's hot AF in here,
Oh.
which
all
it
right.
really is, by the way. I'm
It
sweating.
is hot in here. Zoe, can I ask you, did you live at home when you were at Barnard, or did you live in the dorms?
My first year, I lived in the dorms,
Right.
and I loved it. And then
Uh-huh.
in the middle of my second year, I moved home.
Ah, interesting.
And then here I stayed.
Right.
So then were you dating from home or did you have a boyfriend?
So I had my boyfriend that I had been with for the end of high school. We stayed together for the first 2 years of college. And then he broke up with me totally out of the blue during my sophomore year when I had just after I had moved home. Because I was dealing with some new anxiety stuff and I needed to get it under control. And as soon as I started getting it figured out and feeling so much better, he broke up with me. And I was it was such good timing because I was okay.
Could have been much worse.
Not originally okay.
No, but I think I got over it a lot quicker and easier because I was feeling like myself. I was I'm
think so,
great.
too.
Why did you break up with me? And then I started dating my current boyfriend a few months later. And we've been together 2 years now. So
Well, that's very nice.
Woohoo. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
thanks.
So then what is it like having a boyfriend and living at home? How does that work? Do sleepovers happen? Are you having date nights? And I'm sure Dr. Amy, you've met him before.
Listen, I know him very well. I feel like
Yeah.
he's part of our family and I love him.
Oh, that's great.
But-
That
but-
makes it easy.
I was that mom. I've been a single mom for 11 years now. And so when my kids were in high school, when Zoe started dating her first boyfriend, end of junior year, and Zoe turned 18, beginning of senior year of high school. I didn't turn 18 until college. And so they were dating. And I was you know what? One day I said, Zoe, if you want him to sleep over, it's okay with me.
And I was I hadn't even thought of that yet. I was no. I don't want him to sleep over. I was wait, what? I really hadn't thought of it. And then a few weeks later, I was like, okay, like you don't need to be leaving my house at 2:00 in the morning to go home for half an hour. Like you could just stay over.
And then I had this conversation with Zoe and I said, listen, just because he's sleeping over, it doesn't mean you have to have sex with him.
I was like,
Right.
you think I don't know that? Like,
Well, I just wanted to be like, there's
You know-
sleeping over, like a sleepover in bed. And there's,
Yeah.
Anyway, I've always been very open about sex with my kids also because of like safe sex and like
Mhm.
sexually transmitted disease stuff as a doctor.
she's shown me pictures of everything.
Oh no. Wait, I guess that's good. That's the best form of birth control.
I
Yeah,
think
it
birth
turns you
control, I
off.
also like safe sex, and I would
But-
show my kids pictures of like genital warts on people's mouths, like
No,
be careful
and
who you're
in-
kissing, what you're kissing,
Yeah, it was a lot. I think my brother did that more than I did, but
He did.
I will never forget those pictures.
So
Amy-
I had like offered that. So
She had which was I think unconventional.
Yeah.
Because I really hadn't thought of it yet, and I was like 18.
But now, Amy, you're dating again, correct? I
He's
hope-
not really dating.
Oh, she's
I'm kind
not
of thinking
dating. Oh,
about it.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have to wonder.
He hasn't been on a date in like 2 months.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
That's not that long, actually.
A date may have come up today, like might be coming. And so I'm just like, oh, this will be interesting. Like, right.
Is he hot?
We'll just wait and see what's going on with that. But it's like, okay, you go out on a few dates, and I have to like think about introducing him to my kids who are now adults, and I would want their opinion,
Right.
not like, oh, I have to keep this guy away from my little kids until it's serious because you don't want to screw the kids up.
Like now we don't care.
So when would you introduce the man to your children? Like after 3 dates, right away, after 10?
I don't know yet. I think like 3 sounds like a decent number. If I like a guy enough to go out with him 3 times,
Mhm.
and I think I'd want my kids to check him out, and I want to hear if they have any issues, if they notice anything,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious, just because you're dating somebody 3 times, does that mean you're in a relationship? No. You could just
No.
have a good time with somebody. I keep saying to Kimmy, why can't you just have fun? I mean, must it end up in relationship all the time? Can it just be learning to know someone, enjoying each other's company, and then
I'll tell you why, because if I go on 25 dates with someone, they're going to be
well, that's
like,
different.
okay, well, even if I go on 10 with somebody, they're gonna, and I'm like, no, I was just testing the waters. I actually didn't really like you. That's hurting someone's feelings and leading someone on.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if you can really know so quickly. I mean, I think you have to give them a little bit of a chance. I mean, people have, it takes a long time, especially during COVID. I mean, I don't even know how you get to have a relationship with a lot of people. It's difficult.
I don't know either. And the dates that I was going on were more with like old friends or old
Right.
boyfriends who were safe. Well, it's
Yeah.
funny. Like I have 2 ex-husbands with whom like I have no relationship, but I'm friends with almost all of my ex-boyfriends, which is kind of fun.
But don't you think they're exes for a reason?
100%.
I think the married exes certainly for a big reason, but a lot of the boyfriends, like some of it was just circumstance, didn't live in the same place, or we realized we were better off as friends, or one wanted to get married and I was in college and like not ready, but we loved each other or liked each other so much that we just stayed in touch.
I just think it's so funny because like by the time you got to med school, which she went to med school straight from undergrad, you had like 100 boyfriends. And I've just never like dated. Like the actual like the guy who's my boyfriend, Kim, you know him from high school. I've known him since I was 14. Like it's just it's so different. I've never
Well,
gone
I
on
think
a
the
first date
difference
with someone I
was
didn't
that it
know.
was not, you didn't have to have sex so quickly when your mom was dating versus when you started dating. And that's a very big difference. I mean, so you don't really want to make a commitment so quickly because you have to go to the next step too very quickly. So I wonder if
Wait, what do you
that's-
mean? Because like you would have committed to someone earlier so you could have sex with them versus now.
No, I think when Amy was dating, in her early stages of dating, in the first and the second,
in the 90s.
in the
No, the
90s,
80s.
yeah,
80s.
no, the 80s. I think you would have gone a little slower before you have a sexual relationship. You're thinking it through. Now it's sort of expected. It's like you say, Kimmy, all the time. It's by the 5th date, if you have no kind of chemistry, it's sort of over, which I think is sad because I'm not sure that it happens that quickly with a lot of people.
I think 5 dates, you might, if you want to like touch them, like more than like a hug, like, hey, what's
Oh, a
up? Like,
hug,
if
yes.
you want to kiss them, like,
So then what number date do you think you should be sleeping with someone? I think do people say 3rd or 6th?
I have no 3rd. It better not.
I've heard a number of things.
I honestly have no idea.
I've definitely heard not before the 3rd.
Right.
But also, I don't know. I feel like you're asking the wrong girl because I don't care. It's whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
It depends on the relationship.
Like, sure, there's no hard and fast rule.
Right. It depends. Like if it's someone you've known, and like you're going from friend to boyfriend or whatever, like that's different.
Right.
Yeah. And if you're
Stranger,
feeling
like
it,
I would be aware of strangers.
of course. And I
Yeah.
think, like, I mean, it depends what you're in it for. If you're trying to like make the guy your boyfriend / husband, maybe you play a little bit harder to get in the beginning. But if you're just like one night stand, I'm feeling it, I'm in the mood or whatever it is, like no shame to that either. But that's just
No.
like a different path,
Just be
maybe.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're safe.
So Kim, you've been in Florida for all these months. How have you been dating while living with your grandma?
So I've been a mix of setups and dating apps. I think I rely pretty heavily on the apps, just because every setup, I've talked about this on previous episodes, but every setup that I've had has gone terribly wrong. And every app date that I choose for myself, I feel like goes a little bit better.
Okay.
Or I'll meet somebody in person on my own. And like that's happened down here as well.
There are a lot of people down here because they're not working in the office have really moved down here. So I think Kimmy's met a tremendous circle of young men and women who are really working from either their parents' homes or their
Basically had no one to date in New York, suddenly in Palm Beach,
Right.
so many dates. And now it's like, do I want to go back? No, that's why I'm here 7 months later. Hi. Hello. Amy, have you ever done the apps?
It's so funny.
I have had not great experiences on apps. I met like one nice guy who lives in North Carolina. It's like
That's
I
the
usually
problem with these apps.
He was handsome. He was very handsome.
Yeah, but I mean, he usually comes to New York for work once a month, and he hasn't been here in a year.
Yeah.
So if he comes back, like maybe he'll reach out. I'm wary of meeting a stranger. I think if I don't have a connection to that person, another person in their life that I know, I don't know that I can trust them.
What about
That's
that
my
weird
fear.
guy? What about that weird guy you were WhatsApping with? You made a connection with him, and he was so weird.
Wait, why WhatsApp?
Oh, but that I knew.
That's the weird thing. He only wanted to WhatsApp.
Maybe he
Yes.
was foreign?
No,
He was no. I know. That's what I
lives
said.
down the road.
I WhatsApp with my friends in Australia and Africa and Europe, but not on the Upper East Side. He thinks, I don't know, he thought that the media content or downloadability of stuff was better.
But like
No,
you're just
red
you're not
flag.
sending large files.
Yeah, total red flag, done.
No.
Is there any other red flags that both of you have when it comes to dating or even in your relationship that would be like a deal breaker, or what's your biggest one if you have one?
Well, cigarette smoking is a definite no.
Mhm.
Being a Trump supporter is another no. Being like anti-abortion
Mhm.
Yeah.
is another.
Mhm.
You know, a racist, like all those
Yeah,
things.
of
but
course.
I think like when I got out of my other relationship, I was like, I need someone who's like who's empathetic
Mhm.
and who actually like not cares, but is empathetic. And we're young. I mean, I think I'm 2 years younger than you, Kim. Like men are much less mature, but someone who's like self-aware enough and mature enough to like understand empathy. Like it seems like the bare minimum, but it's not.
Yeah,
I think
I actually think that's a
empathy is
great
key.
one.
Yeah, and like not narcissistic. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, that's her number one.
Oh, okay. Let's get into that a little bit because I feel like nowadays it's a buzzword that people are saying. I feel like the actual definition of narcissism, like what is the clinical psychiatry definition of
We
the
have a whole
term?
episode about this.
We
Mhm.
did. I mean, there's narcissistic personality disorder, which has a lot of, sub definitions of it, but it's really someone who thinks that they are better than everyone else. Their needs should be met first. They don't care about anyone else's needs, and they don't have the self-awareness to see themselves and the way they're acting. Their inability to empathize and put themselves in someone else's shoes, and it's always all about them.
Right.
So are there certain things if you're dating a narcissist or if you have a parent who's a narcissist, certain telltale signs, I guess, where you would be able to tell or
And to run away from that type of personality.
Well, I can tell you when you have a parent who's a narcissist, but you go first about dating.
Well, for dating, I have some new rules for myself that I should have always had. Like, I'm going to ask on a first date about their mom.
Mm.
And you don't have to have the world's best mom. You don't have to have had the best relationship with your mom, but you shouldn't hate her,
wow.
And you should have had at worst a neutral relationship, but at best like a nice relationship. You love your mom, you respect your mom. It says a lot about how you feel about women. It also, like if you had a bad relationship with your mom when you were little, then that could really set you up for being super fucked up.
And also,
That's
just
not a clinical diagnosis, but in a lot of ways that are really hard to fix.
What about
yeah,
a relationship with your father? What do
I
you
think
think
it's
about that?
I think that's important too, of course, but I just, at least in sort of my own case studies and looking at patients
and marriages.
and when I was just a psychiatrist, like that first like mother-child kind of dyad is so important. Now, that could be bad and it could be great with your dad and he can save you, in certain ways. Like it's of course not all or nothing. It's not black and white, but that's just one kind of hint. And also, does the person have good friends and old friends?
Mhm.
If they have no old friends and there's no good reason for it, they moved around a lot because their parents were in the military, whatever, that's quite telling. Like I'm lucky enough to have friends from kindergarten on.
Mhm.
And I don't get to see them all the time, but I'm in touch with them. I love them. They come to events, I come to theirs. We can rely on each other. I just think that shows something about a person if they can sustain friendships over time.
That's
also
really
think,
interesting.
of course, on a first date, if the person is only talking about themselves,
Yeah,
right, doesn't
telltale
ask
sign.
anything about you, yeah,
That's like the most obvious, easy one to be like, okay, thanks for dinner, bye. Like
Right.
that's easy.
Yeah,
Right.
Kimmy had one recently like that.
Yes.
Sorry.
Then you have to
Right.
just say goodbye quickly.
Such a waste of time. Did he at least buy you dinner?
Actually, wait, I don't know which narcissist you're talking about because I date a lot of them, but
my
I think the one you're referring to didn't. So
No,
Okay,
you
well-
did, but you offered to pay.
oh well, yeah, I said every girl I think on dates like does the fake go toward the wallet. Oh, can I split it with you? And he was like,
100%.
sure, if you want. And I was
Oh.
like, oh, and I hesitated. And then he was like, I mean, some girls like to nowadays. I don't know, feminism, da da da. And I was like, even the
Oh.
fact that you're saying that is bothering me.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, no, I don't even want to pull out my card. I probably should have since I did offer. But then he was like, it's fine and took care of it. But I never went out with him again.
I
I
think
was
that's a good thing to talk about. Like with me and Wolf, we always split food, or like, or like it's like, oh, like you have like, oh, I'll buy you lunch. Like, oh, I'll go get us lunch like tomorrow. It's just like more balancing out.
Totally.
Like,
I mean,
it's less romantic.
But I also think you're at a younger age.
not
It
even that.
depends. I think
well,
it depends the age of the man you're dating or the
Yeah, I mean, we're
female.
both college
You're both
seniors.
exactly.
not
So then you should split it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's only fair.
Yeah. In my long-term relationship, we split everything. And I think if you're hanging out with someone every single night, you can't really expect them to completely pay for you.
No,
But I think on the first few dates, when someone's trying to win you over and be like, date me, and you don't want to pay on the first date, I think then it's a little
Yeah.
bit like, I don't like
no,
that.
that's you should just offer. Like I think. It's
Yes, I think always offer, but if he makes you pay or says that's fine, then I think it's up to you whether you want to see him again. And personally, not for me. Amy, can you talk a little bit about like attachment styles? I don't know if because I feel like that's another thing people are talking about right now. And like as a child, how our relationship with our parents can affect our adult romantic relationships.
I love attachment theory. I feel like I could talk about it for hours. I won't.
Okay,
bore
good.
you, but, when I was in college, I was a psych major also. And so it's the work of Ainsworth and Bowlby and that initial mother-child dyad. And so having a secure attachment to your mom, let's say, and to the world, and therefore to the world is so key. And having an insecure attachment is so difficult. And there's different, what are the terms that you've been hearing, like the different categories?
I
'Cause
think
they're
like
not the ones-
avoidant, anxious, secure. I forgot what the fourth one was. Maybe just
So
I
I
don't
learned
know.
secure, anxious wasn't one.
Mhm.
Anxious, it was secure, insecure, and avoidant. I think were the three initial ones, but then there's all these subtypes.
Mhm.
And we would watch the videos because they would videotape, moms and babies. And we also learned about like a good fit or not. Sometimes a woman has a baby and the baby's born with a personality that doesn't jive with the mom's personality. And that can be really hard, especially for a new, first time mom to try to figure out how to connect with the baby. And some of this research showed how child psychologists and psychiatrists could like intervene and help. And when you help the mom to bond better to the baby, it's better for both of them.
Interesting.
I love all that.
If you have an avoidant attachment style, let's say, can that be fixed later in life with therapy? Or if that's just like how you were as a kid, you're kind of, that's how you are in all your relationships?
I think that's it. I think all questions are good questions. I think that's case by case basis. I think it depends on how much the person is able to introspect, look at difficult things about him or herself, be willing to change them, have a therapist who challenges that, but makes it a safe place to do it. And also, I think if they have that kind of style and they didn't have secure attachments to other people in their life, an aunt, a coach, a teacher, whatever, then it's harder. But if they've had those, you can really be saved by other adults as a kid.
I wanted to ask a few dermatology questions, if that's okay.
Of course.
So how related is your skin and like your outward appearance, do you think, to self-esteem? Obviously, I think they're very related, but I wanted to hear your take on that.
I think they're very related too. Yeah, you can't disconnect them, fortunately or unfortunately, I think. And what's interesting and not so great is that self-esteem forms, during adolescence, even before. And a lot of skin problems are pretty bad then. And so someone who has, for example, really bad acne thinks of him or herself often as ugly and that they have, quote, bad skin. And that gets stuck in their self-esteem. And so even as adults, when their skin's clear, they still always think that they have bad skin. They're worried they're going to break out. They feel ugly. And I talk to these patients all the time. Over time, a lot of them get better and some of them feel great, but it's often just like really bad timing, some of these skin conditions. And that's why I think treating them is so important, because they're all treatable. I don't know if you ever broke out, your skin is so clear.
Well, it's actually not, but
From the masks. We're having a mask
We're
problem.
maskne is like my new enemy.
I think that acne is worse right now, and I think it's stress more than I think masks cause irritation for sure, and sometimes rashes and stuff. But I think the reason we're wearing masks is because there's a global pandemic and everyone's stressed out, and it's chronic stress, and I think that's really bad for skin.
Amy, does sex help your skin?
Yes, it
Good
does.
sex. Good sex.
Doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
Any sex. Zoe hates when I talk about this.
She does it a lot on our podcast.
To embarrass her.
I don't think it. It's like,
Just thinking, it's been something I've been thinking about. I mean, does it help? Because everybody over 80 may as well just have one big large breakout. I mean,
well, the good thing about being over 80 is that you usually don't break out anymore. Women for sure don't. Men can still break out, which is kind of
my
funny.
grandpa does.
He's on a low dose of Accutane, and he's
interesting.
Clear. Yeah,
70.
I put him back on it. He went on it when he was 30, and he's 77. But it doesn't have to be good sex, but any sex, but also just an orgasm. So it can be.
Oh, that's interesting.
You be by yourself.
This is what I can't talk to her about.
Because anything that lowers the stress molecules, like cortisol, cortisol is the bad one, and beta endorphins, growth hormones, oxytocin, those are some of the good ones. And they go up when you have an orgasm, when you sleep, when you get fresh air, when you exercise, all these things. But sex is one of them.
Okay, thank you.
Good question,
for our viewers, listen.
Yep. No, we're asking for a friend. Exactly. So also I wanted to break down the desire to look young on the outside, because Amy, you do Botox and fillers and things like that. And Grandma, I'm guessing like all of your friends do it.
Absolutely. They all do it. Some overdo it. And that seems to be a problem down here. You come down after a season and you don't recognize somebody. They look like they've been in the witness protection. But it eventually subsides, and I recognize them after a couple of months.
6 months. Right.
6 months later, I finally say, "Oh, that's you. I didn't recognize you."
That's hilarious.
But now a lot of people are saying in their 20s, should we get it preemptively? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think all of these things have to be done well by someone who knows what I'm going to say she's doing and is mindful of making someone look natural and like themselves. Like to me, it's all about that. And yeah, so I call it baby Botox, and it's not always Botox brand. There's other brands of like Jeuveau. It's really good, but it is preventative. So if you start doing these things when you have to have a line, if you have no lines on your face, then it doesn't do anything. But let's say you furrow your brow, and you have a line, and then you relax your face and it goes away. If you put a little Botox there and you can't overuse the muscle, then the line will go away when you're moving it. But you don't have to start it so young. But if you start to see lines that are staying on your face when you're not moving it, called lines at rest, then it's a good time, because before they get deeper, I'm sure you know, and you've seen people who have like deep horizontal lines on the forehead, and those can be prevented. Deep lines here can totally be prevented. And now with masks, like everyone's overusing their upper facial muscles because they're trying to
that's so true.
like smile with their eyes, because otherwise if you can't see someone's like, how do I know you're smiling?
Do you know who coined the term smize?
No.
Tyra.
Love her.
Tyra Banks made it smize. It's like smile with your eyes.
Oh, okay.
We're working on it over here, lady. Oh, but also like, so over the summer for 2 months, in May and June, when mom was reopening her office at the beginning of the pandemic, I was her receptionist for those 2 months, and we had the best time. It's on my resume. And new patients would call and say, I'm interested in Botox, but I'm really afraid of my face being frozen. And I always say to patients, I didn't say my mom, but I'll tell you, to you, I will say that my mom does her own Botox. You would never know. She looks completely normal. She looks 40.
Right. She does.
She does.
And people are afraid of having their faces frozen because they see other people who look crazy because they can't move their facial muscles. And that's not, as a human, we see that and think that it's really unnatural. So I think you do it naturally. Tons of dermatologists can do it a little bit.
Yeah, I think bad work stands out.
Yeah.
So when you come back to the people who've had filler in the wrong places, right? It's just terrible.
But luckily it's not permanent.
But most people who do filler, you don't know they're doing it because it just looked good. Right. But you can't put your finger on it because it's not supposed to stand out.
Very good point. Zoe, if any of your friends do it, would you expect that they would be open about it or keep it as a secret?
Well, if you ask, that's funny you're asking me, because they would probably come to my mom.
Right.
He couldn't tell me as the doctor, but my friends who go to mom always tell me, and they like send me selfies from the office. I think they would.
Yeah. What about you, Kim? Are your friends talking about this stuff to each other?
A little bit. I feel like not quite yet. I have a friend who gets Botox for migraines. And she's like, well, I'm at it. Can you just, put it a little everywhere? But not many of my friends yet, but I have a feeling that
too will come.
That too will come.
Of course.
Are people doing less of these procedures now during COVID?
I think people who are around are coming in and they're saying like, I cannot look at myself on Zoom or Teams over anymore. Like
that's the truth. That is real. We're so zoomed out.
Yes. Tell me about it.
And they feel like they have new lines on their face. And I think they do because, one, they're super stressed out. And two, I think when you're just seeing someone on a flat screen in 2D, you have to like overly use your facial muscles to try to get a point across, because in person you've got your body language and your whole body, and 3D is so much better. But now people are like, and this, and they're just overusing these muscles. And then when you overuse them, you create lines. So people are definitely coming in saying like, I didn't think I was going to do this, but now I need it.
Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was laser hair removal.
The best thing ever invented.
Oh, so you're a big fan of it, obviously.
Yeah, my legs, I haven't shaved them in like 2 years.
Yeah, grandma has it too. Sorry, I'm outing you, but it was like the best decision you ever made.
Yes, I loved it because those razors, when you used it, no matter what age you were, I was always bleeding somewhere. I couldn't stand it.
Me too.
But the only thing is, it was very painful. Now, for a lot, and I ended up having to use that numbing cream. But I think it's the greatest thing that was ever invented.
Me too. I did my legs, my armpits, and my upper lip, and I'm so happy. Like I tell everyone, like it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Kim, what do you think about it, or what's the question about it?
I want to try it again, but I'm also always tanning. So I know you're not supposed to do it when you're tan. So then I feel like I never really had like a good chance to do it again.
Well,
if you tan, then you have to set the laser at a lower setting. But we should talk about tanning, because you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing self-tan.
You should not have said that in front of her.
Oops. Don't hit me.
Because I told you it's too much sun.
I know it's bad. It's just like, it feels so good to be in the sun, but I know that it's not.
I will send you 3 really good self-tanners.
Okay. Yeah, that's the other thing. I feel like with self-tanner, I always look streaky. And I went to school at Cornell. Amy, did you go there? for
I went there for medical school.
medical school. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So,
You certainly didn't get tan there.
no, Ithaca
You
was
froze.
freezing, and we didn't see the sun any day pretty much of the year. So
Mm.
everyone was doing self tanner there, but like in a little mall in Ithaca, and it was the worst brand probably and we all were like Oompa Loompa orange. And it was better than being super pale, so I did it, but I think I was kind of scarred from like always smelling that like toxic chemical.
Yes,
And
they've gotten much better, even in the last 3 years.
You need
Yeah.
Tan
Really?
Lux. Tan Lux drops.
What's that
okay.
one?
It's just one that I know is really good.
Oh,
She
and
knows
not-
everything.
You know what? We should do a day of self tanner together.
Oh, God. All right. Sounds
And
good.
If
document
it
it.
looks bad, like
blog
at
it.
least, exactly. Like put it on Instagram, and then at least we'll both look streaky together.
We won't have any friends left after these
Nope.
podcasts.
Nope. I'd love to end it also. If either of you have ever gotten advice from your grandparents, if you could share that with us.
On dating.
My grandma, my maternal grandma, used to tell me when I was in medical school that I should be a dermatologist.
Oh.
And I thought she was crazy. I would roll my eyes at her. I was like, Grandma, you don't know what you're talking about. I had no exposure to dermatology in medical school, which is kind of weird. And she died before I switched to dermatology. So I would have loved to have told her. And she also said, my sister and I fought a lot when we were kids. We're very close now. And when we were in the middle of a fight, she would say, girls, you're going to be each other's best friends when you get older. Stop fighting. And we would both say, no, we won't. We can't stand each other. But she was right. She was a very wise woman.
Well, she's looking down and seeing that what she said was right.
But if she like met my dad, she'd be like, get out of there.
No, she did know him.
Oh shit.
And my other grandma, my dad's mom, who was a lot older, and I was very close with her too, she was married once and widowed in her 50s in 1956. And she always wore her engagement ring and her wedding ring. And I said, Grandma, why do you keep that on? And she said, well, I had the love of my life once. And when he died, I didn't want anyone else. And I'm happy. And I just keep him with me on my finger. And so
Aw.
you should,
It's beautiful.
I hope you find love like that. That's what she told me. So it wasn't real dating advice. Also, that would have been awkward for them, I think. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's also a generational thing. Like my mom's parents, my grandparents, they've been married 55 years.
yes,
55 years. They got married when they were 20 and 21,
22.
But that was the norm.
which was a norm.
I'm married 57 years.
Wow,
Wow.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So for them, I think they're always like, as long as you're happy, because it's still like they feel weird, like asking me about things, but they have met my boyfriend and they really, really like him.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. This was so fun.
You're
for
terrific,
having
both
us.
of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed listening to the episode with Dr. Amy Wechsler and her daughter Zoe Wechsler. And remember to follow us on Instagram at ExcuseMyGrandma. DM us your questions.